And we are live. Have Real Lokana back on the show. We're going to talk about Ted Cruz and his interesting new El Chapo Act, which I pretty much have just read about that it's a thing this morning on Twitter. And I left the rest of the discovery phase up to mutually discovering with you so we can dig into this together because I have no idea whether this even is true. How much have you heard about this El Chapo Act, Mr. Brian?
I've heard that so they seized his money, and they want to use that money that they seized to pay for the wall. And let's see, they took 14 billion, which is like twice,
right,
3 times almost what Trump asked for.
Well, it's what Trump originally asked for in his alpha male proclamation. I think he asked for 12 billion. That was like his, whenever you're trying to make a deal, you got to highball and then work your way down. So he highballed at 12, I think. And they're settling for a figure nearly 1.4 billion. No, it wasn't 14. It was 1.4 billion. I'm reading it here at the bottom. It wasn't 14. But still, 1.4 billion is quite a bit when you add that to the, I think, 4 to 5 that they're looking to do soon. That gets us in the $6 billion range of what we're looking at. I was going to say 14 billion for El Chapo. That would have been a hell of a lot for him to make. Like, if El Chapo made 14 billion, we need a border wall.
Oh, yeah.
But
I thought that, didn't Jeff Bezos, whatever, they were talking about how he was the first? What am I thinking of? Amazon hit like $1 trillion in profit or something.
Oh no, it was 14 billion. I misread my misreading. It was 14 billion. Here's the line. It was 14 billion, which is more than double President Trump's $5.7 billion wish list. The 1.4 billion was on the settling figure the congressional aides have recently recommended.
Yeah.
So, sorry. I just wanted to correct my blunder.
Yeah. How do they come up with that number? And
yeah, it says Cruz's proposal comes a day after both political parties tentatively agreed to far less money for Trump's border wall, settling for a figure of nearly 1.4 billion, according to congressional aides. The funding measure is through the fiscal year, which ends in September 30th. So that just means it's old information, which is, you can speculate off anything. This is someone lowballing it. Probably from the Democratic side, just trying to undermine this plan. But regardless, to go back to, I just want to read this line real quick, just to exonerate myself. Mexico's most notorious drug lord was convicted Tuesday of running an industrial-scale smuggling operation that could put the 61-year-old escape artist behind bars for decades in a maximum-security U.S. prison. Prosecutors are seeking $14 billion from El Chapo, which is more than double President Trump's $5.7 billion wish list. So yeah, if El Chapo alone, I assume there have to be other rivals, not as many, but he consolidated a lot of the power. But some other people are probably making money off the illicit businesses across our border. If this guy made 14 billion off that, every penny of that to me is balancing the equation by putting a wall across the southern border. And this is what I want to get into later with you. Is it's like, how is that going to be implemented? Because I think people talk on this kind of black and white wall or no wall. Open borders, like walk through with your sandals, high-fiving somebody as they hand you a Bud Light, to having, drones and drone strikes and, Great Wall of China level stuff. So let's talk about that later. But what do you think of Ted Cruz proposing this border wall bill in the first place?
Well, I think that, one, it's funny.
It is funny that Ted Cruz is the one also... After beating Beto.
Right.
I'm just trying to wrap all the politics in of what's going on, because Beto, we could talk about Beto too, but let's keep it on Ted Cruz for now.
Yeah, Beto, that's a funny story too.
But and just to go over this article real quick, This is from CBS Austin News, Central Texas's webpage, and this was an article from yesterday. So this is day-old news from the local area, if anyone wanted to wonder where I got this article from. So I want to get that out of the way.
So, I mean, first of all, it's El Chapo is a Mexican citizen.
He is.
It's
Extradited.
Mexico paying for the wall.
It is.
Which is hilarious. I remember when Trump first said that, I went, he's not serious, is he?
Right.
Why would Mexico pay for the wall? I mean,
when the government, why did we assume the government would be the one paying for the wall? It only makes sense for a businessman to convince another businessman to invest in what he was, the loophole. It's essentially plugging the loophole that he took advantage of, which is kind of what Trump's almost doing after conning bits of the real estate industry and becoming a president who's cutting out a lot of the bullshit,
Yeah.
So,
really
interesting.
So, I mean, it's on the one hand, I mean, what else would they do with the money? I mean, if America seizes his assets, takes money from him, he was doing this illegally. Presumably, he's taking this money from American citizens. Now, I know the idea is these are rich people buying cocaine. Who cares about? They're probably white.
Right.
Who cares about rich white people? And the whole mythology of El Chapo, he takes this money and then he gives it to the poor Mexican citizens and he paves roads and he makes their life and he's a Robin Hood and he's really great. Never mind the fact that he murders people and traffics underage girls. No, because he's a hero of the people. And so there's a lot of that nonsense too.
Yeah, the Robin Hood element to it.
Which, I mean, I'm all for a private citizen using money to legitimately help people in poverty. Okay, I don't want to sound like I'm mocking that, but I don't think that's really true about it.
I think it's actually a bit Reaganomic, if you want to think about it that way.
In how so?
In the fact that it's like you said, a private corporation or a citizen.
Oh yeah,
however you want to see the entity, whether it's the citizen El Chapo himself or if you want to look at his organization, it's a private organization that, like you said, is investing back into the market, into the community. To me, that's actually pretty Reaganomic when you think of now whether he's doing it through illegal means or not. That's a whole nother conversation. To me, it is very capitalistic if you look at it.
Yeah, and it's great PR.
Oh my gosh!
When people say stuff like, "Oh, well, this corporation, they're only donating to sick children because of PR," I'm like, so?
The children are still getting fed.
Right, yeah, I'm all right with that.
Oh, I hate this PR stunt. It's like, well, the kids who are getting food and education and housing, it's like, they don't hate it.
Yeah, no, I think, in fact, I think that people should care more about what corporations do which stuff, and they should support that.
I try to pay attention, at least. Like, I don't follow PR stunts because, like we were just saying, it's kind of boring. But it's just not fun press to be talking about. It's not sexy. But it is important to keep note of who is doing valuable work, too. Because sometimes you can pork barrel those PR stunts into making it look like it's more than it is.
Right.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, I think that a lot of the PR stunts that El Chapo does, probably not, a lot of them not true. Mm-hmm. A lot of them really vague, and I think a lot of people just want to buy into that for whatever reason.
Well, Pablo Escobar has the same kind of legacy behind him. He was, a lot of people look at him, and I'm actually curious, how much money did Pablo Escobar pull? Because I remember every time I look this up, I'm like, no way. Pablo Escobar, total net worth, would that be the best thing to look up here?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Here it is. It's estimated net worth between 25 to 30 billion, which is the equivalent of 48 to 58 billion. With inflation. But without inflation, 25 to 30 billion. That dude pulled money selling cocaine. That dude made so much money. When you realize how much money he made off it, it's like, those weren't, that was people consuming cocaine. You know, to me, it's like that. I've never tried cocaine. I've never really seen too much cocaine, but knowing that a man made $30 billion to now $58 billion off it, it's like somebody was doing cocaine and said there weren't. You know, it's kind of like the whole porn issue I have. I not to throw these kind of rogue statements out there, but to me, I think it's odd that in our society we have these people making so much money off certain industries, but people pretend like it doesn't exist.
Yeah, it kind of makes you want to, I don't know, cook meth in an RV in the Arizona, New Mexico desert.
Well, actually, I'm going to do something real quick that I normally don't do. If you take a look, I've got the live feed up not right now. Let me see. I got right there. I'm showing my kitchen. I got the cook is in the kitchen, the poster of Breaking Bad. So... yeah, I really like Breaking Bad. Great show. I don't know why the hell I just did that, but got the poster up. So let's jump back to El Chapo, because that was a nice little segue to Pablo. But I do think bringing up Pablo is interesting because it really puts into perspective how little amount of money El Chapo has, and they're heralding him as this major drug lord. But maybe it's my Colombian pride, but... I grew up, a lot of people call me Pablo Escobar. You know, in middle school, they're like, oh, Pablo Escobar. I'm like, eventually you just got to own it. So I do take a little bit of pride that one of my, you know, people from my birth country were able to make $30 billion off of cocaine, even though I think it's a very bad drug, and it kind of hurts the community. So
yeah. Yeah, and that's another side of it too. I mean, in the show Breaking Bad, all the people that do the product, they're all junkies, they're prostitutes, they're, you know,
always
and you
in the
go,
show, yeah.
And you go, well, I don't feel so bad. You don't see, you know, the other
the doctors, the
right.
Yeah. I know that in particular that a lot of people in the health industry, ironically, are I don't want to misquote that, but I think I'd seen somewhere that in the medical field is one of the most surprising demographics that has meth problems. You'd think the people who understand the biology and the chemistry behind it would be less likely to use, but apparently the correlation was the opposite, which is something I can look into later. But had you heard anything similar to that? I was surprised when I heard so many doctors were overdosing on meth. I'm like, wouldn't you know better?
I don't know what the statistics are, but I know
pull that out another time. But
every medical show has that as a plot line.
Oh yeah,
one of the characters on every show. Yeah.
It's a meth head.
Or something.
Right. No, they're
like
ether, or well, not ether. Is it chloroform? I know that there's the trope of the mad doctor who sniffs. Is it ether or chloroform or something? That they're always trying to numb themselves, so they're always using the painkillers that they give their. It's a trope I've seen in shows, movies. The doctor who's gets addicted to painkillers, but opiates and amphetamines, I think, are normally the issue.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've gotten way off topic talking about opiates, and I mean, we're honestly kind of going across the board on a lot of issues that face our country. So I don't think we're completely off topic. We're just getting off this specific topic.
Yeah. It's just like anything, there's always a lot of tangents and whatever that connects to whatever topic you talk about.
I think tangents make conversations fun. So
exactly.
I mean, what's the point? What's the point of listening to somebody if you know exactly what they're about to say anyway?
True.
So we were before I probably chimed in and led you astray. What were we discussing about El Chapo's implementation of the $14 billion? I believe you were making a point. I might have cut you off.
Well, it's just, you know, you see people who are trying to rehabilitate his issue and say that he's Robin Hood and that he does all these good things. And they forget the fact that, one, maybe none of that's true. Or it could also be that he legitimately wanted to do good. I think everybody has. At least
initially, he could have had the Scarface issue where, you know, he's a bright-eyed drug dealer who became a heartless warlord.
Yeah. much in the way that
It's a very
Walter White
popular
did.
movie. I bet you, I will bet whatever money I have that El Chapo watched Scarface at least once.
You have to.
I
It's like required.
Right. I mean,
You're gonna
I'm
do
pretty
that.
sure he probably thinks that that was based off him.
Could be.
He's the closest, one of the closest things to a modern. Can't remember the character's name. That's what I was hoping I'd remember. But Tony Montana. Tony Montana. That was the name. But yeah, it's crazy. I didn't follow the proceeding, but I think it was just yesterday that he was now I know I'm going to get the legal term wrong. He was sentenced, I believe. Was he sentenced yet, or was it simply that he was found guilty? Whatever. I think it was found guilty. Whatever that part of the legal process. That's where we're at now. I think because they said something about him getting being sent to a maximum security facility. I don't know if that was implied by the writer, or if he was actually sentenced so far. Have you looked into that at all?
I don't know if were they talking about giving him the death penalty and he escaped that?
I just looked up. Okay, so there's a CNN article. El Chapo is likely going to the same prison where Ted Kaczynski and Dozakar Tarnoff are
Right.
held.
Yeah, I know what they're. I know what I was thinking now.
That's from literally 3 hours ago.
The reason why I was thinking death penalty is because just like when Jeffrey Dahmer went to jail, everyone knew he was going to die.
Right.
So anytime you put a famous person in general population, they're going to die.
Right.
So they don't have to worry about putting him on death row. He would probably be in way better shape if he was on death row.
So
Because
maybe this is part of the deal to get the money. That's like preferential treatment where we're gonna give you 3 square meals, you're gonna be in prison, but you're not gonna be put in general population, so you're not gonna get killed. Because I think that's probably, if you want to look at it from a negotiation standpoint, we'll just tell them, hey, if you don't give us the $14 billion, if we can't make this work out legally, we'll just put you in general pop and you're dead. We don't even have to, like you said. Does that probably sound likely? I don't know. That's just my guess.
yeah, I also thought that they already seized a lot of his money.
Right, the money's already been seized. That was because he was initially arrested in 2016, right? This is like this summer. I think it'll be going on 2 years since we finally got him. Because I remember I remember when I got the news, we caught El Chapo.
Yeah, and Sean Penn was on suicide watch. No,
Was-
I don't.
Oh, is that a reference to something I might have probably should have?
Sean Penn has been. Sean
that's
Penn,
right.
clearly a moron, but he has been a huge fan and defender of his for a long time.
I do remember that from back. Yeah, I haven't. For some reason, that sounded familiar to me, but I forgot that Sean Penn was associated with.
He was
El
a
Chapo.
big supporter of Hugo Chavez as well.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Because Chavez is the other guy. When you look at El Chapo, Pablo Escobar, and Hugo Chavez, there's a lot of people who look at Hugo Chavez. They're called Chavistas in Venezuela, but it's the people who were suckered into the socialistic side of things, and a lot of them, their sons ended up becoming part of his National Guard. Their families are taken care of. They're soldiers. They're part of the made men of the country. And they're the ones who, I believe Chavez, he's great. My kids are fed. I got a roof over my head. I get 3 squares.
Yeah, if you're part of the dictatorship, socialism is
It works great. It's amazing.
Wonderful.
You barely even have to work.
Right. Yeah.
Which, we could. We didn't even. I didn't even ask you what you think of the Green New Deal, but let's stay away from that. Let's stay away from that.
Yeah. If there's time later, we can.
Yeah. So it looks like, from what I looked at, that he hasn't been sentenced, but that's based off all the evidence that's been put in front of him. It's like that's only a foregone conclusion at this point. Now it sounds like we're just etching out the ending of this story more than trying to see what's going to happen. The ending is set. It's just kind of how the chip's going to fall.
Yeah.
So, the next part I was going to go over is just the current state of our border fence. And then we can maybe get into your thoughts and my thoughts on how we're going to try to use that 14 billion plus should this work out. Because it sounds like 14 billion, like they'd said, Trump, this is double what Trump wants. And then apparently if we still secure the financing, if Trump gets his cake and gets to eat it too, he can be looking at potentially 20 billion for this border wall. Yeah,
and it's hard to say exactly everything that he's doing.
Eyeball, but yeah.
I mean, like how much is for construction? How much is
right.
And this is some things that some critics that have talked about the ongoing cost. So
like the maintenance.
Well, sure. There's maintenance on that.
Paying the salaries of the people that.
Yeah, I mean, you got to. It's not going to be a medieval wall, so to speak. You're going to have computer systems. Those need to be upgraded. They need to be repaired. They need to be fixed. You have obviously people that are going to come with chainsaws and they're going to dismantle the wall to get through it. You're going to have people that will build tunnels underneath the walls. So it's not just you build it and then you're done. And so and anytime you work with government, the government says it'll cost this much and then it costs way more than that, which I mean, obviously we've seen that happen so many times. So he can say, hey, this is what it's going to be, but we have no idea what it's actually going to be. Now, we could say, well, he's a businessman, so he works outside of government. And so maybe he might be, because if things go over budget, he's used to losing money.
Right.
And
he's used to taking a loss on stuff like that.
But he's not hiring, different company. He's not wheeling and dealing. He's got to, the government's got to do it. So the government has to be involved in some way. So, who knows how that's going to affect things.
Okay. Well, first thing I'm curious about is I've actually, I should have looked this up ahead of time, but as far as a wall plan goes, are you for having different like tiers of wall level, kind of Maginot line style? I don't know if you know much about the Maginot line.
I'm not sure what that is. You mean like a wall here, bigger wall behind that?
No,
sort of thing?
Not multiple layers. I'm saying different points of the wall having different levels of strength behind it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Maginot line was the I did a project on it way back when in school because I thought it was the most hilarious thing. The French invested an insane amount of money after World War I, preparing for. They knew the Germans were going to invade again, so they built the Maginot line across the French border with Germany, near the Alsace-Lorraine territory, Belgium. It kind of, I don't know the history around that borderline, but that's where they put like major like castle level tunnels and fortifications. They had ramparts where they had turrets that would pop up out of the ground where you didn't see them, and you'd have like cannons and machine gun bunkers that were secluded and hidden. Actually, very well designed border wall for a war scenario, and during one of the times where conventional warfare was a major issue. What ended up happening in World War II was the Germans just stomped through Belgium and just went through the Argonne Forest, the same exact thing they did in World War I, but the French didn't think of that. They just invested insanely on their German border, and the Germans just did the same exact thing they did, or the Ardennes Forest, not the Argonne, the Ardennes Forest in Belgium. And I think it's hilarious, but I think it actually is very important when you think of this issue, because I think a lot of people also talk about going around our border wall.
Yeah.
That's why I want to discuss different tiered system, because the Maginot Line wasn't a castle in all places. They would set up like citadels, or I'm not sure how you'd refer to it, certain places where the troops would, just where the barracks would be, and then they all dispersed to their places from there. So having like major strategic standpoints, and having other areas that are more just fences, where you just have, maybe, and this is where you'd said like the computer systems where you have maybe cameras set up for like rapid response areas versus areas where we know there's a lot of people going to, and just having these strategic checkpoints set up along the way where we can respond quickly, but not necessarily have that giant wall. More having just good logistics behind the wall so that no part is weak, but no part actually has to be a major Great Wall of China investment either. What do you think of something like that?
And I think too, not only that, but it's got to be responsive. And
Yes.
I say that because obviously you want the strongest wall where most people are coming through.
Yeah. Or at least, to me, the caveat to that is manpower, where you don't maybe have the largest physical wall. To me, the logistical side of things is just as important. Is having the information, the observation angle. 2, having the intelligence, the people on the radio telling the people on the ground where to go. To me, it's like having those 3 elements together to be able to see where the threat is, to be able to analyze it and go to it, and then 3, to be able to execute and get there quickly. That to me is way more important than the physical wall. The wall to me is just a way of slowing people down and then being able to use our forces. And the thing is, over time, like you said, what was the word you used? I'm thinking adaptable. You said
responsive.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's like once we learn where these checkpoints are, we can start diminishing resources in certain areas. So maybe like I said, a tiered system where we start off with like a fence and then like have it adaptable where we learn where the fence needs to be strengthened, and maybe like a progressive wall system where everyone starts with like a smaller wall, and as we learn where the weak points are, strengthen it.
And just know that that's going to change over years.
Of course.
Because people are going to adapt. They're going to say, well, okay, I know we always used to go this way, but it's pointless. This is not as defended as well. Let's go this way instead.
It's like playing a game of Jenga, You're just constantly making it difficult for the other side, but hopefully there's no collapse. Hopefully it's just we maintain our wall indefinitely.
Yeah, and ultimately, I know there was that joke of Jim Acosta who went to this really well defended where they had this big huge wall and everything was fine there, and he was like, there's no trouble here.
There's no problem here, man.
I don't know why Trump wants a wall.
I'm about a mile out of El Paso.
And so and then there was the meme from that to where they had Jim Acosta in this meme where he's at an aquarium and he's like, there's this big plexiglass window and they say it's to keep the water out, but I don't see any water on the floor. Clearly it's not needed. And the thing is that we could build a wall, everything could be great, and all these caravans might go, there's no point, we're not going to get in.
I just wanted to, Eric actually just chimed in, I think he's watching Darwin Subspecies. He said, great show, build the wall. And I think it's actually important that, I'm in Chicago. I've actually never been to the Mexican border, but you're a Californian. You've been there for several years. Eric is
all my life.
There you go, all your life. I assumed it was a long time. I wasn't sure if it was all your life. All your life. Eric is from the Houston area. He's a Texan. So right there, just the 3 of us, I have no opinion, but 2 of you understand the border situation a lot more than a lot of people I know. So I think that's a bit of a, to me, here's the thing about like having a new YouTube channel. It's like, how can we, so someone just said, they will never find his money. The money's already been seized. Some YouTube channel that I don't know, or some YouTuber just said they'll never find his money. I know that was an issue with Pablo Escobar, that he hid a lot of his money in the earth. He didn't do it in the maybe offshore or through the banking way that everyone else did. But I believe El Chapo did it through the banks, and all his assets were seized. I'm
not sure what the number is, but I had heard that they had seized some of his assets. I don't know if it's how much it is.
El Chapo net worth. Oh my gosh. I'm not pulling that one up. I'm trying to pull that up right now to see. Well, here's the thing: is I'm pulling up net worth is supposed to be 14 billion as of 2016, according to Wikipedia. I don't know if that's everything, and then I'm curious what they actually seized. So El Chapo, let's do the research now. Seized funds. This thing, I don't mind pulling up. Or I keep spelling seized wrong.
That's what autocorrect's for.
Yeah, but I was spelling it ceased, like cease and desist, instead of seize, like seize the objective.
Right.
But go figure. Homophones? Yeah, it's a problem. Says billions of dollars. I'm just wondering who has the money. It's probably just frozen as of now, right?
Yeah, I know that some of it was frozen.
Yeah. But my question is, and this is something I'm not sure if I'll be able to find out in a timely manner, is it's like, how were we able to seize it? Because I don't know who this is, but they make a good point. It's like a lot of times with these people who make money illicitly, is sometimes it's cash. Sometimes, you wonder where the money is. Is it in assets? Is it in liquid assets? I'm a horrible economist, so I'll just back away at that point. But it is interesting, and how is that we seized all his worth when we might not know all the different sources? Because it might be more than 14 billion, especially if he found ways of hiding it in the ground or giving it to people who have loose associations with him. I mean, money laundering and all that is its own thing we could get into for a while. But it sounds like 14 billion of it is secured regardless. So he might be worth a lot more than 14 billion, but it sounds like that's all we've seized, and that's all that's been reported on. Because Ted Cruz said, according to that post here, that that's what he's asking for. And I don't think Ted Cruz is all that smart, but I think federal prosecutors wouldn't be dumb and ask for 14 billion if they didn't think it was there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, so I just kind of want to refute the claim that they will never find his money. I don't know if that was just a passing joke, but I felt the need to justify my side of things. So, yeah, we're just talking about the fence. Where were we left off before I addressed the chat?
Well, we were talking about should they have different walls, different types of walls in different locations?
Right.
Absolutely. How much should they have other than just a physical wall?
Right.
Should they have drones? Should they have cameras? I mean, it all makes sense to me.
I would defer a lot of that information probably to the the security consultants, the accountants. I think it's more than you need to have it all cross-checked. It's like you don't want all the security consultants to be the person providing the opinions, because they're just going to price gouge it. They're going to be like, oh yeah, you need this,
right,
this, and this, and this. So you need the accountants to audit that and be like, listen, we don't need this, this, and this. And I think it's something that we should really take our time with. That I really don't want to hear of a plan for this. Like we're addressing this day after, because this whole thing is fresh news, but I really want this plan to be something they at least take the next 6 months to look at, and don't just start building right away for the sake of politics, which I think might end up happening. We'll see. What do you think is their timeline? And
I think in another, that's great. To obviously you want experts. You don't want politicians.
No. Oh, politicians are the third implied party, but I didn't want to bring them up.
Right.
Because they're only selling one asset, and that's influence, which is relevant for this border wall.
And I think one of the things that I think is important to look at is if, and I don't tend to trust numbers when people say, oh, it's going to cost this much and this is happening and this is how much this costs. I tend not to trust people who put those statistics together. But
right.
So I don't know exactly what it is. But if you look at how much money does illegal immigration cost us,
Those also would
People,
be good, important hard facts to have. Yeah.
right? People come here because, well, first of all, yes, I get we're a nation of immigrants, and there was a time in which you could come here, and if you were willing to work hard, you ate. If you weren't willing to work hard, you died. And so the people that would come here would be the ambitious, hardworking people that really wanted to make a life for themselves. And then the welfare state came, and then there are people that really don't want to work, that don't like America, that just want to leech off of us. And those
Right.
people are now coming.
Right.
And so we still
Well,
have
and the funny
great,
thing is, the
wonderful
Democratic Party
immigrants.
is trying to sell that to them directly.
Yeah.
Come here for the opportunity. The whole point of what you're just saying is come here for the opportunity. They're not coming for opportunity necessarily. And I think the shield that a lot of people use in that discussion is well, some people are coming for opportunity. It's like, yeah, some people are,
Yeah.
but let's look at the demographics of how many are versus how many aren't. How many, like you said, who are coming for the advantages. I don't recall if it was California, or Florida. It was one of those three major, high electoral count states that, was it a mayor? I want to say it was like the mayor of LA had said that they wanted illegals to be able to vote because they're part of the community or something like that.
Yeah.
Have
Which
you heard
is
that?
also, yeah, I have,
Okay.
and it's not just one place.
Right.
That's been a narrative for a while, which is hilarious because the Democrats are really, really mad at the Russians for influencing our election and putting out all this stuff. And we don't want people from another country
meddling with our election.
But we're totally fine with citizens of another country directly voting
for our election. And go figure, who are they going to vote for? The people who allowed them to vote. It's like,
and another thing too,
something about a kettle and a pot.
Right. Another thing too, I would point out is that you look at Cubans, and Cubans know what socialism is like real well.
Oh yeah, they do.
They don't like it.
No.
And
well, Venezuelans are going to be the next migrant.
Right.
I'm one.
So right. And so Cubans hated communism, socialism, whatever you want to say what it was. They hated it so much they're willing to duct tape trash together and float across it to get away from it. And they come to America, and there used to be a law called the wet foot, dry foot law that said if you successfully float over a bunch of trash through the ocean to get to America, you're given citizenship.
Yeah, if you're able to do it, you're given citizenship. That was a temporary thing, though, right?
But here's the thing. They were given citizenship. They voted in the election, and the majority of them voted for Trump.
Wait.
Oh, which is true.
Really?
Yes.
When was that law passed? Because I'll look into this while you're talking.
I don't remember when it was passed, but I do know that one of the very first things that Obama did is ended it.
Really?
Yes.
Wait, you said Trump. How did they? What did you mean, Reagan?
No.
Or
No. This is when. So Obama was still president during the election. Right. Right. The election in 2016.
Right.
And so when that election happened, and the majority of Cuban Americans,
I see.
When they voted for Trump, Obama immediately ended that law, so they couldn't vote, so they couldn't come over here and get citizenship.
Did that actually get rid of their, like, no one got grandfathered in?
I mean, they're granted citizenship, but he didn't want anyone else to be able to gain citizenship.
So he just closed the gate, essentially. He didn't get rid, like, anyone who became a citizen to that point. But if there's any more Cubans that have come,
right?
Okay.
And so I want to make that. I want people to really understand that the Democrats, as soon as they start,
not aware of this at all.
As soon as they start voting for the Republicans, Democrats end that, because that's the only thing they care about is votes.
Wow.
And anyone who thinks any differently, you're just plain wrong. And that's one of the things that people have said is if these people coming from Mexico, if the majority of them voted for Republicans, Obama would have built a wall that could be seen from space.
Yeah. Oh gosh, wow, I didn't know that Obama ended it. I remember reading about wet foot, dry foot in my history book growing up. I remember, with the end of the Cold War, that was one of the. It says 1966 was when it was implemented. It looks like, and then 1996 became the Cuban Migration Agreement, and then there's the Special Cuban Migration Lottery, which just sounds like an adaptation of that policy. But like you said, in January 2017, the Obama administration announced the immediate end of the policy shortly before Barack Obama's term expired. I had no idea about that.
Yeah.
That's funny. And that's why Florida is such it's probably such a red state, because a lot of those Cubans that vote Republican.
And God bless them.
God bless them is right. Well,
too bad we don't have more of them.
My mother is the spiritual political ideology there. It's the same kind of heartstring. She's a Colombian. She was born in Colombia, raised in Venezuela, and was able to move to the United States. And she's voted Republican her whole life. And the funny thing is, there's a lot of people we know in the Latin American community who are Democrat, and we don't always talk politics in the family. And actually, recently, I remember, I don't want to say any names, but it was on Facebook, which I have a small Facebook community, so I've already pretty much ratted a person out. But it was after the State of the Union, and they posted a picture or an article or something that said, "I'm scared." And I simply commented, I said, "Why are you scared?" And I don't recall the answer, but it was a bunch of emotional anecdotes. And I feel like a cold robot in saying that, but that's all it was. It was, you don't understand my experience. You don't understand what I've been through as a woman, all these identitarian topics. And I know this person. We've had great talks. We've, broken bread together. We've had drinks together. We know each other well. But it's funny, I haven't spoken with them in a few years. And the current political climate made me out to be a monster. And I was talking very tersely and seriously wondering why they felt scared. And at the end, it sounded very maybe brutish, but I just ended with, "I'm sorry for asking," because I was genuinely sorry for asking. I'm like, I didn't anticipate that response. Part of me was kind of joking when I'm like, "Why are you scared?" Because I don't feel scared. I thought it was a great State of the Union. It made me hopeful for America. So for me, it was very surprising to see someone say, "I'm scared," after that. I'm like, and then for there just to be such a hard battle line set because of emotions, that's where I was just like, okay, well, I'm not going to fight over your emotions. That's not right. That's a logical, bedrock, but
it's really odd. I mean, I obviously, living in California, there are a lot of leftists here, and I don't bring up politics really to just people around me. But sometimes when I let it slip and people find out that I'm a conservative, they'll be like, "But you're so nice. I don't understand. Why would you do that?" Like, what,
right. I muted
why
myself,
do you have this,
but yeah.
why do you have this odd opinion? Like, and you ask people, what is it? You ask non-conservative, you ask leftists, what does it mean to be a conservative? And they'll tell you just batshit crazy stuff.
Oh yeah,
stuff that has nothing to do.
Nazi, racist are two of the first terms that. And the funny thing is what I've learned as a 26-year-old pseudo millennial is I can't stake myself on the Reagan era, on the Cold War era, on times where, let's be honest, Republicans did some things that you might disagree with or polarizing, but objectively they did some great things that kept our country afloat. Because I think we go off this principle that the United States will always exist. Like, coming from someone who studies history, that can end any day.
Yeah.
Like, we're still walking this razor's edge. People act like, "Oh, we've been around forever." It's like we're still we're still very young. We control a lot of assets and influence right now as a country, but our house of cards can fall very quickly.
And Reagan said that democracy is only one generation from extinction.
Right. Yes. And that's kind of the culture war we're fighting now. And I was tying this into something, and I'm completely lost where I was going now. Because I was talking about being a millennial. Oh, it's the fact that I can't go back on history. So when I say I'm a conservative at a young age, a lot of older people who have been Democrat for longer or leftist for longer, to me they're two different things. But they'll say, you know, you haven't experienced the stuff I do. You know, Republicans, like you said, they're cold. I was accused of being too compassionate recently by, or not compassionate enough by a friend of mine recently. And I simply asked, I was like, you know, hey, we don't see eye to eye politically anymore. And that's starting to have an issue with some of the entertainment, the stuff that I find funny, the stuff I want to share. You don't enjoy it. And it kind of goes back to the PC the discussion we just had is I remember times in the 90s growing up where there was political division, but that was part of the fun of it. Like I remember late night comedy was hilarious because both sides equally made fun of each other. They were pretty open and honest about their policies, and everyone ribbed fun at each other. It was great. We're living in an era where that overlap of humor, I really think humor is the glue. It's the catalyst. It's a bunch of things here. Is without that humor, that cross ideological dialogue, is where is their growth? You know, it's these two echo chambers that are becoming more and more confirmation bias centric, and it scares me as someone who a fellow kind Republican, for the lack of a better way to put it, where a friend of mine from a long time I socially having a hard time interacting with over politics. That being said, I think simply by having this discussion, someone will understand exactly what I'm talking about. This will make a lot more sense to the hypothetical you don't know who I'm talking about. But just saying it aloud will make people wonder, and this is kind of what I think is what propels healing of culture, and that's people say it's a culture war. It doesn't need to be a culture war. I think what is happening is, like you said, democracy it can die in a generation. And I think we're having one generation label another generation the failure, the fault in being millennials. And I think that target is slowly slipping as more millennials are taking control over the country, but they don't always know what to do with it. I'll speak from my experience there. I've heard a lot of Gen X's. I think Gen X is the 30 to 38 range, which I'd say...
No, it's older than that.
Is it? Okay. Would you consider yourself a Gen Xer? Because I was going to say...
I am.
Okay,
yeah.
I was going to say culturally, whether you fit into the age range, I consider myself more of a Gen Xer myself culturally. That's where I prefer to live mentally, if that makes any sense. But I am more of the millennial. I appear to be a millennial. That being said, I think the millennials are lost. They don't know their history. They don't know a lot of these things. And if the entire millennial generation can grow through time and not learn the reality of a lot of these situations, like I didn't know that Obama ended that. Think of how many other things, basic things, people don't know. You know, and I think that's where it really becomes an issue.
I don't know if it's. I think every generation goes through the same problems. I remember, and I know a lot of people in my generation talk smack about the millennials, and I just kind of go, "Do you guys remember all the smack they said about us? The baby boomers said about us? It's the same exact crap.
You can't let shit roll downhill."
Right. And so I remember the main thing is baby boomers were like, you Gen Xers, you're slackers. That was the big, huge term. We were always called slackers. You don't know how to work like I did. And I think a lot of that was, you look at the World War II generation, you look at the hell that they went through. And I think a lot of baby boomers grew up listening to World War II stories and how the Depression was really, really difficult, and they and their fathers and their mothers, they sacrificed to get through that. And I think baby boomers really kind of had this envy towards the greatest generation, the World War II generation. And I get it. I mean, I think the things that they went through, that generation went through, incredible, and they should be admired. But I think a lot of baby boomers kind of said, you know, and you don't know what it's like they had to go through, and it's just sort of like when I went to high school, we had senior lawn, and you couldn't stand on senior lawn unless you were a senior, and that sort of crap is always going to happen,
right?
And that's why I think my generation is just they're snobbish towards millennials, and so that's why I don't like to make the Tide Pod, whatever I don't like to make those jokes necessarily, because in one form or another we were given those same. I think it's not really necessarily a generational thing. I think it's more just a youth thing. And the way I like to look at it is, when you're a kid, you have no freedom. Your parents tell you what to wear, what to eat, when to go to bed. You go to school, your teachers tell you what homework assignments you're supposed to do. You go to college, same thing. And so when you're a young person, you have security and you don't have freedom. And therefore, the Democrats are offering you, they say, hey, just give up your freedom.
Well, and especially if you don't have any role models of a working system of community. Because to me, that's what being a conservative is. It's understanding what your community is capable of attaining and staying within that. While to me, this is like a right-left switch, where the leftists believe that if you become part of the larger community, whether it be the state, the organization, the corporation you like, or whatever, that you're trusting that will do it, instead of the smaller community that you have more efficacy and agency in.
Yeah, absolutely.
To me, I think that's the real ideological split.
Yeah. I think right-wing ideology, they care about the individual, or as you said, a small community. What can my family do? What can my neighbors do?
There's layers to it. Yeah, there's layers to it.
Yeah. And certainly left-wing ideology is the collective. And that's not necessarily bad.
No.
I mean, if you say, hey, I really care, I think that a strong society is made up of strong individuals, and we really need to focus on the freedom of the individual, that's good. And if you say, I think we should make society better collectively, that's also good.
It's also good, yeah. We should both be working towards, yeah.
And as Ben Carson once said, I like to quote Ben Carson as much as I can. He woke up from his nap and he said something. And he said, a bird needs a right and a left wing to fly.
Yeah.
And I think I think it's good that each side critiques each other, and I think that it's good to have division. I think it's good to have conflict. But why I would say it's gotten so nasty, which you can say, hey, it was nasty during World War II. Right. I mean, sorry, Civil War.
Civil War. I mean, they were both pretty bad, but
I mean, essentially, the North were the Republicans, and the South were the Democrats.
Yes. And
so, if they were shooting at each other, you know, you could say it was worse then. But I mean, you could say, I mean, at least generally speaking, we're not shooting at each other.
Have you?
But
sorry.
But it is bad. Right. And I think a lot of that has to do with social media makes echo chambers so easy. And I think that's a big part of it.
Well, and one thing I actually take a lot of strength from is, or not maybe strength from, but influence from, and I'm not sure how many people watch documentaries, is documentaries. I've watched a few documentaries, two in particular recently, that frame things in a certain way that have made me feel more right-wing. And one of them is Death of a Nation by Dinesh D'Souza.
I haven't seen that yet, but I heard it's great.
But when you're referring to the Civil War, that's precisely what he gets into. He makes a lot of... the first part of the movie is him talking about common misconceptions about the Civil War. And then once he goes over that, he compares this era which I believe that movie came out last year or the year before, so it's becoming a little more dated now. But he's talking about this culture war, more politically than it is culturally, but talking about the idea between this rift being very reminiscent to that of the Civil War. But the problem is it's become a shell game as far as who's actually fighting who anymore. That the Democrats make it seem like the Republicans have become fascist, when in reality, the Democrats and the leftists have been the fascists the whole time. It's putting a mask on your enemy when you know your enemy won't take it off. Or I don't know how to take that, but that's kind of the concept of Death of a Nation. Highly recommend it. The second one I watched much more recently, within this last month, and it's actually just came out within this last month, is Hoaxed by Mike Cernovich.
I've heard about that too. Yeah, I saw a little bit of the preview of that. Yeah.
To me, I honestly, I was filled with so much hope when I saw it. I'll make a quick plug for it. I think it is one of the best red pill documentaries I've seen, in particular for millennials. We have been completely, I would say indoctrination is not an overstatement, on the 24-hour news cycle. We live it in our social media. When I tell my grandfather information of stuff, I'm like, can you believe this happened? He's like, no. He's like that kind of guy who, like, if he takes 2 phone calls a day, it's a lot going on, you know? That's an overstatement. He's a busy guy. He does stuff. But it's like compared to social media, where I'm scrolling on Twitter, I'm looking about what's happening in Venezuela, France, UK, and then my country, and then anything else my brain wanders into. It's like I'm plugged into a lot of sources of information that is very good. On one hand, I'm learning things, but also are things that, like you said, 4 generations removed. Oh, is it 3? Would be, because there's the Lost Generation, the GI. I got it pulled up right now. The Silent Generation, Boomers, X, Millennials, and now Z is the new one. Yeah. So the GI generation, is that the World War II one, or is that the Silent Generation, the greatest generation?
I'm not sure. I think to 45. I think that's the cutoff for World War II, and when baby boomers start, people born in 1945.
Right. Okay. So yeah. So my grandfather was kind of in between the silent, I guess, generation, the baby boomer generation, and why was I going to tie him into this? That's the thing, is I go down these rabbit holes and I forget the point I was going to make to begin with. Where were we just going as far as generational differences? We're getting to the difference in information consumption is that back in the day, the baby boomers, probably the biggest, is journalistic integrity. Listening to the nightly news was core of society. A good citizen was someone who watched the news at night, and the news was proud. It was honorable. You really trusted the news because they were telling things the way they are. And within the last 4 years, even more in the last 1 to 2 years, media has completely shifted, where we're watching the death throes of the legacy media. And the problem is, I see people who don't even see that yet. That I get all my news from independent news, and I cross-reference it with the legacy media, because I just can't believe the discrepancy every day. It's like I come up for air. I guess no, I go down into the depths when I go into the CNN and that kind of stuff. But it's a breath of fresh air when I see independent reporting and just people doing exactly what we're doing, just saying, I don't know, but this is what I've seen. This is what I've read. Right.
Yeah, I started watching.
All you need is a webcam. All you need is a webcam and a microphone, and you're in business.
And that's interesting to see, these alternative media sources, and then they're making a living doing it. And you look at a big company like like CNN or an internet-based company like BuzzFeed, which I know is really awful, but yeah, and they have massive staffs, and they get so many things wrong, to the point to where
they do get some stuff right. I do want to give them credit. They have made some, because this is something I noticed today because I was writing them off very quickly. There are some posts that they made back in the early 14s and 15s. During the Obama administration, they were actually making some progressive cases, like you said, things we can learn from. But the problem is all that constructive writing, and when these people were actually good journalists, is now it's like you've almost done this a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde switch, where all that potential for good writing and good reporting and education for the people has literally overnight switched into vitriol for Donald Trump.
Well, I think it's important to point out too is that these organizations, they're made up of many different writers, and so you might have some journalists that are saying, you know, here's some vegetables, they're healthy for you, and other journalists that are going free candy.
Right.
And
clickbait.
And the people that are running these magazines are saying, yeah, the person that says you should eat your vegetables, they're not getting that much clicks, but the free candy guy, you know, and they might prioritize, but you might be able to go on Huffington Post and find actually well-researched, aka the vegetables,
the
journalism
vegetables within Huffington Post.
You might find that
too. Yeah, and it's unfair to completely write them off, but the problem is lately, and it's been more evidenced with this whole learn to code meme, that you have all these in the wake of all the really the reality of what exactly, because let's take a step back, is the hoax documentary by Mike Cernovich talks about the fact that there's like a political bubble that is formed in Donald Trump hatred, that we're any day now there's going to be this tipping point moment where people realize that Donald Trump is not so bad.
Yeah. Not everybody's going to be infected with Trump derangement syndrome.
Right. I think we've watched benchmarks with these viral moments with like the guy in the vape shop. Did you see that video? Exhale. Wait. Okay. Well, you have your headphones in, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you should, if you want to turn on your audio for the feed, I'm gonna play you a video real quick. This went viral back right in between Christmas and New Year's. It's a 4-minute video, so if you want to listen in real quick, and then we can talk about it. I'm glad I can get your honest opinion of something new. Ready?
Okay.
Oh, I need to unmute it first.
So here we are at Exhale Vapor City in Tucker, Georgia, and I have just been asked to leave the store. He greeted me. That was nice. I did find the item that I wanted, and the next thing he said was that he'd like me to leave.
If you do not stop recording in my store, I'm going to call the police and ask you to leave now.
Please call the... That would be awesome. That'd be awesome. We can call Fox 5 and all sorts of stuff. I would like to purchase something here. Please do call your boss, because I will be calling corporate.
Go for it.
I am looking forward to releasing this video, because I just want to purchase something from
your store. Fuck off, dude! Fuck off! Get the fuck off in here, man! Fuck, man! Fucking can't stand your racist motherfuckers!
Racist?
Yeah!
Sure.
Right?
I'm not a racist.
Right, I got a fucker in my store he won't leave. He's wearing some Trump bullshit, got some racist bullshit all up in his head and shit. I'm not serving anyone that has to do with that fucker. He's a treasonous asshole.
I don't have a problem with you, sir. Whatsoever. I just want good health care for my kids. I don't have a problem with the color of your skin or yours. I'd like to purchase some of this naked vape juice, though, if that would be all right. All right, see, because... Okay, here's where we're at.
Leave the store.
Here's where you're at.
Can you hear it?
Leave the store.
I'm playing it on my own.
Fuck off! I don't give a fuck. Get out, dude.
Go ahead, take another swing at it. Make contact with me one more time. I'm gonna make a deal with you. I want to purchase that vape juice.
No.
If you sell it to me, I won't. If you sell it to me, I won't. Look, if you sell it to me, I won't call the police. What you did was assaulted me. What I need is that for my wife. If you sell it to me, I won't call the fucking cops and press charges on you for assault. I won't call corporate and get you fired. Just sell me the fucking product so I can leave.
What do you want?
Naked in the strawberry in a fucking 6 milligram.
Where do you see naked?
Right here. This shit. Where is it?
Where
this?
the fuck do you see
Right
it?
there. Here. Right next to that. In a 6 milligram. Make sure it's a 6 milligram so I don't have to come back.
No, you're not fucking coming back to my store, homie. I'm making sure of that. Get the fuck out of here, dude. Oh my fuck.
God bless America. Capitalism wins again.
Fuck your capitalism. Fuck your fucking president. He's a racist, stupid piece of shit. You're a racist,
Just ring the shit up.
stupid piece of shit.
Just ring the shit up, fuckboy.
Fuck off.
Do my bidding.
Man, fuck, get out.
Sell
Call
it to me.
cops.
No,
Call
no,
cops.
no.
No.
Sell it
Call
to me.
cops.
Sell it to me,
Fuck
punk.
off. Call cops.
It's your job, your freedom. Sell me the shit.
Fuck it, you can be.
No. Sell it to me.
Nope.
Sell it to me.
Fuck off.
Come on. Ring it up. Ring it up and you don't ruin your life. That's where you're at right now. Because you done upset me. And you should have helped him first in the first place before you threw a temper tantrum, dipshit. He's standing here waiting for you to ring him up. How fucking...
Get
is
out!
that simple? Help your customer.
Fuck off! Fuck off!
This is pretty crazy.
You got a business card here?
We are going to be here all day. Get out!
I'm cool with it. I'm recording. You got a business card for your manager or anything
Fuck
like
no.
that?
I ain't giving you fucking dick.
Oh, man.
I ain't giving you
This is
fucking dick.
phenomenal. Look,
I don't know if
God
you got
bless
to that
America
part
and
yet.
everybody in there. I love you, sir. I don't even know you. I love you too. And God bless you.
This is about money.
This is about money. I just want to bring this thing home to my wife. You know? Man, this got nothing to do with skin color.
I'm not selling
This has
you.
nothing to do with skin color. Okay, I like having a little
I
bit
think
more
I can
money in
hear
my
it.
paycheck.
I think I can hear
like
your
paying
version,
less
'cause
for
mine
my
isn't
kids'
making any
healthcare. I got nothing
Can you hear
to
it
do
to
with
my
skin
headphones?
color, bro.
Yeah, I hear it through your headphones.
I'm not selling you dick.
We're on a delay, so it's a little
Wow, man,
awkward.
God bless you.
Because mine's over,
check
but
it
I can
out.
hear yours.
He's still your president.
All right.
Go
Well,
fuck yourself.
I mean, I'm probably.
Yeah.
I'm sure I've seen the.
You've
the
watched
bulk
enough.
of it.
You've watched enough of the meltdown itself. I just played it for the feed, but you hadn't seen that.
No.
Yeah. So, to me, that is the most vivid representation I've seen of Trump derangement syndrome. It does not appear to be a false flag, which is my first thought, that it was set up to create more havoc. The guy was fired and sued, and
Good.
Exhale City came out and said, we don't support this. Obviously, you can come to Exhale City and purchase anything you like. And I think they had something. I think they actually had a promotion where, like, if you wear a MAGA hat or something, you got like 20% off or something. I was like, wow,
hilarious.
that's awesome. Way to be. That's awesome. I thought it was hilarious. I don't vape, but like, that was just crazy. That I think he didn't even have a MAGA hat on. He had something right wing, or maybe it was a MAGA hat. I don't know, but it's like just the symbolism alone. There was no dialectic, issues, nothing objective that was, like, you will die and I will kill you. If that's on a shirt, that's like, okay, yeah, that's a bad shirt. But it was just like, I respect my country, I respect my president. Unheard of. Can't do it. Can't be a nationalist. Can't be supportive of your president. That's unheard of. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I remember when there was a protest against Chick-fil-A, and Chick-fil-A, they gave free sandwiches to the protesters.
Did they? I wasn't even paying attention.
How can you be like,
you guys are hateful. Okay, here's some free food.
I mean, the LGBT community, which didn't like the fact that Chick-fil-A had donated money to a Christian organization, they felt the Christian organization was against the gay community. And so the LGBT community came out and said, we're going to protest Chick-fil-A. They're hateful, and they're giving us free sandwiches. And that really, they were just like, okay,
well,
maybe
this might get me banned. This
place.
might get me banned off YouTube, which is exactly why I'm going to do it. I am actually temporarily anti-gay. Temporarily anti. No. I'm just coming out and saying it because part of what I said earlier is this is a PR stunt. I'll just flat out say it, because I found that when people make accusations of me, that when I placated and used, because here's the thing about the leftist agenda, they play off shame, that it's not influencing your behavior through moving chess pieces, through forcing behavior to change objectively. It's doing it rhetorically, making you feel ashamed for the actions you've done and making you do it yourself because of the shame you feel. You're like, oh, I need to change my behavior because people made me feel bad. And as soon as you just flip that script and say, okay, whatever you're making an accusation, I am that. So it's like, are you saying you're anti-gay? Well, now that you make me think of it, maybe I am. And that's about as far as I go there. I'm like, I believe what I believe for a certain amount of reasons. And then when you want to create an inference on top of that and then define me based off said inference for rhetorical argument sake, that's a straw man. It's called steel manning it. Is they create a straw man and you make it out of steel. It's very effective. It's very, and that's why I'm literally saying out loud on a YouTube live stream exactly the tactic I use, and I've been told that makes me cold and not compassionate. Yes, it's called standing up for yourself and your values and your beliefs. Apparently that's something that's not PC. And I look at it as game theory. I don't even look at it as like this, because I'm already in the rhetorical domain now. So any objective, logical debate is out of the question when people make these rhetorical insinuations of me. So it's like, okay, now Twitter fingers are out. That's the way I look at it. It's like, well, we're not playing that game, the one where you teach me something and we both learn. It's, I'm going to attack you because you attacked me, and I'm going to win. Because I've learned to play these games. And steel manning a straw man is just checkmate. It's checkmate every time. It's, how about this? Like, maybe Jewish people have a little too much influence over the entertainment industry. Are you saying you're anti-Semitic? Yes. Am I anti-Semitic? No, obviously not. Anyone who knows me and knows any conversations I have, no, I'm not anti-Semitic. But if you're going to make do this bait and switch shell game where are you saying this is what you view? It's just by simply asking that question, you've already put my character under the lens.
Yeah, I don't know if I would do that same tactic. I understand where it comes from. I understand the frustration.
Oh yeah.
But
it's just, I'm too impatient. It's a very impatient tactic, and I don't mind.
The problem, obviously, the problem with that is if you have you and I both have small followings. I know we don't like to admit that, but
well, I'll admit it flat out.
But when your profile goes, and I think if you have a small following, you can do that. You can steel man. I've never heard that term before, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
But the problem is that when you start to get bigger and people want to screenshot things that you say and they want to keep bringing up this false narrative again and again, that makes it tough.
It does.
When you're like, I was just trying to win an argument. Like Sargon of Akkad, who called a group of alt-right Nazis, he called them the N-word. That got him banned from Patreon. No, that's not what got him banned from Patreon.
No, not at all.
But that's the excuse.
Yeah, that was what they used to hang him with.
And I would say giving people ammo.
Well, I look at it. This is part of the developmental phase of my channel. I think you don't get loyal followers before you get trolls. So I'm creating a buffet for trolls, is the way I look at it. I would love to get some trolls because I look at trolls, and actually, if I get trolls, I'll tell them to watch my most successful video yet, which I'll just click on and I will take us to real quick. I will go to my channel, and it's just, everyone can see it, but my most successful video was the Vox Days socio-sexual hierarchy. It's like 3 times to 5 times more successful than any of the videos I've posted yet. And it goes into alphas, betas, deltas, gammas, and omegas. That it's not just this alpha, beta, male hierarchy system. And what I've learned from that is I've been all of those before. And what I understand is the way the internet works is majority of the time when you're watching a live stream, which I do a lot, is you're in gamma mode. You're completely just absorbing information. You're not a part of the discussion. You are the person podcasting has complete control over all thoughts you have unless you simply turn off the podcast. Now, my goal for this podcast is to allow other rules. The third would be Delta, where now you can comment, you can take part, you can abide by the rules I set for the podcast. We're still in harmony there. The betas are the ones who placate to me, the person running the podcast. Now, that is simply because I'm the person running the podcast. In this scenario, you'd be beta, simply be me hosting, but I could do the same for you. You'd be alpha of your own show. The thing is, the gammas are the people who are trying to undermine the structure because they feel like they're not being included. That being said, I think those are the first people who come to check out a dead channel. Like, you have more of a following than I do, but that's where I'm at. So I'm looking at it this way. I want people to come here and tear my argument apart so that I can have a good one. So that when the deltas arrive and when more betas arrive, for me to have a good kind of structure to this, it makes sense. I can't just ask for people to want to watch this. First, I have to have people tear me apart. And I'm ready for it. I'm waiting for it. So I think I have to be a little more clickbaity through my Steelman arguments because it's not actually what I believe. You know, if I just said what I believe, it would be very boring and no one would care. That being said, let's find where that razor's edge is. Let's find where that compromise is by taking hard points. That's where I'm at. I'm not asking you to do the same. It's simply my tactic. And I don't mind sharing it on a live stream because we're already at like an hour or something. Yeah, we're just over an hour. So like anyone who's listened to the full hour, it's not like people are going to skip to the end and watch the last little bit here. You know, I don't mind revealing my entire strategy at the end because most people won't watch the whole thing.
The day will come when people are sitting at their computer and they're typing in anti-gay and they come up with, it'll do the transcripts and it'll say like, ooh, here's one, get him. Yeah. And they won't even watch the whole thing.
No. It'll turn into a soundbite and I'll just be like, yes, I did say that. Because anything you say after it, you're just digging a hole, you know? And that's the thing is it's like, all you have to do is stay patient after you tell the truth. Yes, I said that. Anything else you say is going to dig you a deeper hole. Time will move on. They will get bored, and the outraged lynch mob will go somewhere else.
Yeah, I've already had somebody who screenshotted something I said.
Okay.
And it was a dumb thing that I had said. I didn't really read what his comment was, and I just posted something, and I realized, oh, that's actually not the argument he's making, and so I just deleted it. Like, within like 5 seconds of posting it, I deleted it.
Okay.
And then he wrote me back, or he tweeted back to me, and he's like, "Nice trying to delete that. Good thing I screenshotted it."
Good thing I screenshotted it.
And I wrote back to him, and I said, wow, this is an important milestone for me. I'm already important enough that people are screenshotting what I said. I am so happy. My mom is going to be so proud of me. Anyway. Okay.
It makes me think of, have you seen the movie Nightcrawler? Oh, okay. That was kind of a stretch. It's a newer movie that came out. I don't want to ruin the movie, but it's I think it was a mockumentary style film. With Jake Gyllenhaal. Let me pull it up. 2014. Jake Gyllenhaal. He plays a guy who buys a camera and is actually really creepy and just wants to become a beat reporter, like the people who get on the scenes for murders and stuff like that. And the whole film is about this guy learning how to do it. 95 on Rotten Tomatoes, 92% of Google. I like the movie. Google users liked it. The thing is, it was really creepy. It was LA crime journalism. That was it. But the whole point of the movie is this guy realizes that at first it was him seeking truth. It was him looking to make money off of getting short stories. And without ruining the movie, in the end, he ends up creating a story. That he wasn't always the first one on the scene. Sometimes he wasn't getting the money shots, to the point where in the end, he makes a conscious decision to be unethical, to create a story just so that he can be the first one on the scene.
And then he starts BuzzFeed.
And then he starts BuzzFeed. Right, or Vice News or whatever, HuffPo. But to me, it was a very strong rated R movie from 2014. 2 hours, 1 hour 57-minute long runtime. Which to me, I like long form stuff like that. Like I just rewatched Lord of the Rings, and those are like, I watched the extended director's cut. Those are like 3 hours each, which I can sit down and watch a good 3 hour movie as long as it's a good movie. And to me, that gets into the idea that I also feel safe doing a podcast live stream because most people can't sit still for this long. And I think eventually what I'm going to do is go back and cut some of these good points that are made and make like 5 to 10 to 15 to 25 minute segments to repost. So that's the nice thing about doing this live stream is we do like say an hour, 2 hours at most, but then we get those like where we really were just on topic and just cut it. And that's my goal for this is just to show people reasoning out common issues in society and finding where the truth lies in it, because there's a lot of hearsay. And like you said, it's more people's egos battling it out than the actual policies and the issues. So yeah. I think the ego battles are what make it fun, but it doesn't make it right. And just try to skirt that line along the way.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So on that note, I think we wrapped up. The final point was the fact that the Democrats supported the wall in 2006. That's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
They wanted a fence. They've wanted a fence. What's your experience through the California politics of a fence? Because you guys do have a unique situation where a lot of traffic goes into Los Angeles area.
Yeah, I never hear about it on the news.
Okay.
I mean, it's easy for California politicians to say, we don't need a wall. I'm like, because we already have one in California.
Okay, yeah, you guys have a wall. Is it I've seen parts of it look concrete and metal, right? Because I believe I have a shot right now on screen of part of the California coast wall. I'm not sure if that's it or not.
Well, I mean, that's part of it. But I do know that illegal immigration went down considerably after they built it.
After they did build that fence, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I live in Sacramento, where I'm not really
further north.
anywhere near the wall.
Right.
So I've never actually seen it.
Okay. But yeah, I wasn't sure if some of the politics kind of had your way where you were aware of the situation. But yeah, we'll just kind of end on that note that Democrats wanted it. And like you said, it seems like it actually worked in stopping illegal immigration, which is the goal of the whole border wall. The whole point of us getting back to Ted Cruz being able to afford a proper border wall. And El Chapo is the perfect means with which for us to finance this whole operation. So
yeah. And I find it hilarious that I listen to people trying the criticism of the wall. And one of the funniest ones to me was somebody said, well, about over 40% of people who are here illegally came here legally and they overstayed our visa, their visa. So building a wall isn't going to stop them. And so what would be the point? And I'm saying, well, hold on, because I like math. So what you're saying is that the wall will only solve most of the problem?
Well, it's discussing the exception, not the trend or the, well, I forget the expressions, how it goes, but that's the point. It's like, well, there's one problem. It's like, well, does it solve majority of the issue? Yeah. Okay.
So I don't know. I think it's unfortunate that most Americans, the majority, they've polled this, most Americans don't want a wall, which is really unfortunate. There's a few things that most Americans feel a certain way, which I think is unfortunate they feel that way.
Right.
But that's a number that's been going up. So it's not quite at 50%. But
the thing that got me to be more of a wall supporter, because I was actually very anti-wall 2 years ago when I was Bernie. Because I was a Bernie supporter, and the thing is, yeah, it was more out of character than out of policy. I was looking into democratic socialism for a minute. Okay, so, guy jumped back in. they would have to go figure out how to stop people from just going over it or simply go under it. We discussed that before. Over it and under it would be it would need to be a reactive wall, where we would get more of a tiered system, and we would use the information from maybe cameras or people on the ground and learn where to divert resources. But thank you for the input. Because building the right kind of wall for the right kind of area is important. I just wanted to address that comment. But yeah, I'm sorry. What were we just saying? We were talking about the conceptualization of the wall. Is that a lot of people think it's too expensive, that it's going to cost too much. And the thing is, if you're trying to make college free for people and healthcare free, it's too expensive. But that's not the president we got. And I did have a bit of an identity crisis because at the time I was really gung-ho on trying to go to college again. You take me from 2 years ago, I was either going to move to Chicago or go to college. I chose to move to Chicago. I look back, and going to college was not the right call. I see what they've become, and to me, it's a bit of a cesspit of ideas. Especially, I wanted to get into psychology and sociology, which is some of the worst sometimes. And I look back, and I'm glad I didn't go back to college, and I'm glad the way the world economy has shifted that Bernie didn't get into office, because I was looking through like a young idealist eyes, and I'm glad that the country voted me down, my ideology down. I'm glad I lost, because Bernie, I think, could have still potentially, he would have given Trump a run for his money, because Hill Dog is awful, was awful, has always been awful, still is awful, apparently still plans to run. She's a carpetbagger, first off. She wasn't originally from New York. So to me, that's enough. She's already not from the place she's representing. But so
carpetbagger the other way.
Right. Well, yeah, she's not from the she's not from New York, is she?
No.
Then what do you mean by the other?
A carpetbagger is somebody who's from the north who came to the south.
Yes. You mean the other way, from north to south? Okay. Right. I thought you meant my facts were not straight.
Oh.
No, because she was from the south and she moved to New York.
Right.
I forget where in the south, but
I assume from Arkansas, because that's where Bill Clinton was governor.
That would make sense. Okay, and then she became a senator for New York.
Was she a senator or just a congresswoman?
It doesn't matter. She became a legislative representative for the state of New York, and she had never been from New York.
Right.
So she literally went there to throttle leftist agenda because New York City is such a leftist haven. And
right.
That being said, I forgot why we got so into Hillary Clinton. Oh, it was about just the Bernie thing. And I just wanted to say real quick, it's like I was very against the wall to begin with. We got another comment, but I'm going to finish my point. I was very against the wall to begin with, but it was more because I didn't understand the opinion and the direction of the country. And given the issues we're having on the border with the human trafficking, the opioids getting moved into the market through, across that wall, I don't know too much about it. There's a lot of speculation, and people I respect have said it's an issue. That's enough for me to be like, okay, let's look into this. And the story of Ted Cruz having this CHAPO money, to me, is like, all right, let's do it. That was the point of me doing this podcast with you. Is it's just like, I was kind of against the wall. Now I'm kind of for it. And now with the money to do so, it's like, well, why not? Yeah,
and I mean, if you think about the total budget, I mean, $5 billion is adorable.
Right.
When you
but when you add $5 billion to $14 billion, now you got a wall. Now you got a good wall. Now you have some money on backup to be able to pay people in the future. That's like, you don't have to spend all 19 of that. You can have some of it on standby to pay the government employees. I don't know how stuff normally works like that, but I would assume that would be a smart thing to have money on reserve for the wall.
Mm-hmm. And if you figure into how much does illegal immigration cost us, the wall could save us.
The wall could save us in
hundreds of billions a year.
Like you said, Trump understands going for a loss for the sake of principle. And the thing is, the principle is protecting our country. It's like sometimes you have to take a loss on certain things to be able to have the values you want. And if that's anti-drug, that's anti-crime, if that's unskilled worker, if that is the prerogative we have, then it achieves that goal in to a certain degree. And that's something that we need to look into. So I want to read this comment real quick. I was born in Mexico, and with all the crime over here, we still can't have everybody just come. So I also think we need some kind of wall. Oh, thanks for chiming in. Yeah. Glad to have someone who's born in Mexico say that they think there should be some kind of wall. It's not even a hatred of all Mexicans. I think Trump's made that clear on several occasions. It's just we don't want the bad kind of Mexicans, the ones who are bringing drugs in and everything. Obviously, I don't think anyone wants to have this, because I watched the show American Gods, and I actually just my last live stream I plugged it. And I do think it's a great show, but there's one scene in particular I have an issue with. And it's intentionally polarizing and hyperbolic, but it's a bunch of immigrants crossing, I assume, the Rio Grande, and getting gunned down instantly without any conversation. The whole point of it is it was meant to be polarizing. Neil Gaiman is a good writer. He's probably one of the best out there right now, because the point is, it was symbolic. There's someone who's supposed to be Jesus Christ as one of God. It was the introduction of Jesus Christ as one of the American gods. He gets shot in the hand, and now he's crucified by bullets. So it was more symbolic than anything, but it's those hyperbolic, because I think drama and culture is what is supposed to guide our opinions. It's supposed to be the most hyperbolic, polarizing situations for us to see that's not what's happening, but that could happen. And I do think that's an issue, that some people think that you have these legal immigrants, wholesome people, families who want to root down and assimilate with our culture, who are getting gunned down without a tribunal. That might happen, but I also think that scenario is the exception and not the reality. Not to say that it doesn't happen, but it's not what normally happens. I believe that most people who work border security understand the detain and release is there's a name, catch and release or something like that. And even catch and release might not be right. I've heard some people talk catch and imprison. Just, that's a conversation I don't know much about, but it's like the idea that anything about a border security is malevolent really needs to get tossed out. That you can't have a constructive conversation about a border wall if you think that a border wall is inherently evil, which is, I think, the majority of the opinion with any leftist is if you say you support a border wall, now conversation is completely out of the window. Is you can't even, having this conversation might be enough for someone to just discount every opinion said afterwards. Would you agree?
Yeah. I mean, it's just like the people that talk about how they don't like Trump because they don't like kids being put in cages and stuff.
The media, did a frenzy on that.
And you say, yeah, that's awful, but those pictures all came out from 2014
when Obama was.
Are you like, damn, that Trump and his time traveling?
Right. Those journalists were really quick at getting pictures of the Trump administration's handling of the border security. Oh, right. The president who's been in office and we've had time to get pictures. It's from the Obama era.
And when you point out that entering the country illegally is a crime, and when you commit a crime and you're caught, regardless of what the crime is,
whether it's theft, whether it's
you don't get to bring your children to jail with you. I mean, I don't really understand the rationale here, other than kids, cages, who's currently president right now. It's all his fault.
It's all optics. It has nothing to do with the actual finding the best practice. It's all it's many levels. Like you said, it's the president, it's the administration, it's also how conservatives see the wall. I think that, like we were talking about the rhetorical issues of doubling down and steel manning, I think there's a lot of hardcore right wingers who joke about being more white nationalists than they actually are, doubling down on a wall and saying, I want a wall and I want America to be white and Christian. It's like,
yeah.
When you sit down and break bread with that guy, is he really that kind of person? I can say from experience, I'm half Latino. And I've met people who say those things, and I have broken bread with them, and they're wonderful people. The thing is, they strictly are anti-strangers who they haven't had a chance to vet, which I think is a very human, it's a very rational point of view. It's, I don't know you. I'm not going to give you benefit of the doubt just because you were able to cross the border. I think that's very fair, and I am a nationalist.
I think too, it's really easy to, I mean, I've met people who were here illegally.
Yes.
And I didn't call ICE on them. It is, I get that people say, okay, illegal immigration costs us a lot of money. Their kids overwhelm our schools. Their kids, they overwhelm our hospitals. They overwhelm our ERs. And so we lose money there are some immigrants that contribute to our economy, but for the most part, we lose money from this. And I can see how it's really easy to say, I live in poverty, I have to struggle, and here are some people that are essentially stealing from all of us. And it's easy to demonize those people. But a lot of those people are genuinely nice people. And it's, I get how you meet them in person and then you might change your mind on that.
Well, I think it's different aspects of people. There's plenty of people who can seem kind and trustworthy, but the way they spend their money, their dollar vote, just like people have their foot vote, is not in the same level as you do. There's people who are the silent majority conservatives, the people who like you are yourself, that you don't wear your conservatism on your sleeve. One, because you understand what it will entail, but also two, I would say you're more humble in the fact that you don't feel the need to be evangelic about it. I'm making assumptions. Would you? Is that fairly true?
Yeah. Most people who know me, unless they know me really well, people that I work with, they don't know what my political beliefs are.
Right. And I guess it's my youth and impatience with the times that I wear it on my sleeves, just because it's not worth it for me, at least, to be in a new city and not tell people, at least kind of how I feel. I'm not that person who's going to be like, 9/11's an inside job to be the like catalyst of conversation. It's very polarizing, and it definitely gets people wanting to answer me, but it doesn't breed like we discussed earlier, a place to find common ground quickly. It's kind of like taking the chessboard and tossing all the pieces and being like, let's just start a new game. It's just intellectually dishonest, the way I look at it. And I just find it's difficult sometimes to find where do you start in conversation with people that you are going to be spending time with regularly, but you don't necessarily know where to begin. Because do you start with the boring stuff and work your way up? Be like, who did you vote for in 98? Who would you vote for, in 2002? Yeah. Do you just go back in time and look who you voted for? Do you bring up easy softball policies like drug laws? Oh, you're anti-drug war? I'm anti-drug war too. Sometimes you got to go for the throat punch and say, I'm for a border wall. I'm not. Let's figure out why.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, generally speaking, politics will come up. I had a job interview yesterday, and he made some comments about Trump, and I couldn't really tell if he was like pro or against, or he was just saying stuff and to try and kind of
bait you into
yeah.
I
mean, I'm making it sound almost like a bad thing. It really wasn't. It was
okay. Yeah.
It was fine what he said and what happened. But
I think you need to be apprehensive of people trying to get you into a conversation that you might not know too much about. That's something I'm always looking out for too, and I think that's just good CYA mentally.
And sometimes I fall into the trap of because I can see both sides of things. Sometimes somebody will talk about really leftist kind of talking points, and there's some element of that I'll agree with, and I'll
for sure,
and I'll say, oh yeah, because of this and this, and then they'll go, oh, you're a fellow leftist.
It's like,
And
no.
then they'll pile all this other stuff and like, well, you totally agree with this and this, and I'm like, uh-oh.
That's one of the
now I'm trapped.
That's one of the reasons I've switched from pro-choice to pro-life. It's just because like I've realized that being pro-choice is very polarizing to a lot of conservatives, and I rhetorically became pro-life before I became intellectually or philosophically pro-life, if that makes any sense. I had to say that this is what I believe before I believed it. And it wasn't until I said that people started coming to me and telling me, when I say coming to me, I say that, virtually sometimes, send me an article or something to look into. But it wasn't until I convinced myself by saying it online, social media and stuff, that I actually was able to look into it and become pro-life. You said you are pro-life, as I recall from...
Technically, I would be considered pro-choice.
Pro-choice. I'm sorry. My mistake. There's someone else I spoke with. I had actually been pro-choice, and I'd like to lean back to pro-choice. My issue, though, where I'm pro-life now, is that I see the way abortions are being used as a political tool, and like I said, temporarily anti-gay, temporarily anti-abortion. I think abortion is something that, when used properly, can liberate the female from oppressive circumstances. The problem is I'm seeing it used blanketly across the board to not only liberate women, but to also alienate them from reality. That the research biologically on how it affects the body, how it affects society, hasn't really been done. This is new technology. And we don't know if it's good for the family. We don't know if it's good for the woman. We don't know if it's good for the baby. And my thing is, it's like, maybe we need to take a step back. Make it a little harder to get to. Not making it something that's done on a quota system, which is something I learned recently from a podcast. A former Planned Parenthood director, manager, something. She said that we were put on a quota. And that we were getting so many abortions a day because we had incentivized it through different means, marketing and otherwise, that they weren't even able to sterilize equipment because they were getting so many. But they're right.
Was that the Louder with Crowder show?
It was. And the thing is, I looked into more of what Abby Johnson was her name. I looked into more of her things, and she's been parroting this point since 2012. That this isn't some new lady out of the woodwork. And that's one of my favorite things about the social media era, is you can see consistency of people. I immediately was skeptical of Abby Johnson. I'm like, where the hell did this lady come from? And I saw her moment, and she posted a video in 2012. I want to say that was the year, where she's like, this is when I became pro-life. I was pro-choice. I worked at Planned Parenthood. I worked there. And she said, it wasn't until I first saw an abortion in person that I first had doubt. And she's like, that's when I started looking into it and started to try to change the organization from within to get better. And she's like, that's when I realized I got blacklisted. That's when I realized I got blackballed. They didn't want me around anymore, and she got out. And now she writes books, she does documentaries, she does everything she can to spread her story, but it's getting stifled. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it was just, I didn't mean to go on some abortion tangent. I think it had more to do with finding common ground. And I think it actually, we relatively kind of understand where both of us lie just off that short conversation. It's like, why can't major issues like that be resolved like that more often? I think it's because I think you and I in particular in this discussion, I don't think either of us are trying to get a leg up egoically on one another at all. You know, I think
there's no point.
Issue. There's no point at all.
Yeah,
that's one of the first things we discussed when we connected on Twitter. It's like getting people to block you isn't the goal, but some people just need
it can be fun.
That's what I was about to say. Well, although it's fun, I'd say some people need to learn that other people are gonna, some people are gonna be better at you than arguing, and you need to block them, which is what I aspire to be. It's like, if someone crosses my line, I will make you block me, not the other way around.
I get people block me all the time.
Oh, yeah. It is. So to me, that's kind of your side of the steel, man, is the fact that it's like, I will win at all costs. And that's, to me, the blockage. I've blocked people too. Some people are just better trolls than me, or have more time or whatever. But I think this has been a good stream. Let's kind of wrap it up there. With
we'll tackle abortion next time.
We'll tackle abortion next time. Actually, yeah, because I feel like I only said my point of view, and well, shoot, for next Wednesday, maybe we'll just do abortion and see where that goes from there.
I'm just kidding. My position on abortion is actually pretty simple. It's not whole podcast worthy, but
okay. No fun. Now what are we gonna do?
I mean, really quick though, I think abortion is awful.
Yes,
I really do, and it's
been romanticized.
It's too bad that pro-lifers call us pro-abortionists,
right?
Which I get demagoguery. I get it.
Apologist might be a better word, even though I think that's a disdainable word in begin with to use ever.
Right. First of all, I would say that infanticide has been part of human history for a long time.
It has.
It's not great. That's not me going, hey, it's fine. I'm not trying to make that argument. I'm just saying that it's out there. You could say we're more civilized now, and that would be a great argument. But so maybe that went nowhere.
Right.
So I'll get into a better argument. I don't want to get to the point, and this is the whole reason why I'm pro-choice. I don't want to get to the point to where women are now legally responsible for a child that cannot survive outside the womb.
That's fair.
And because it becomes a slippery slope, if you can now prosecute a woman because she had an abortion, you could also prosecute her because if she had a stressful job and she miscarried, did she now commit manslaughter?
Oh, right.
And you're starting to see some countries that have banned abortion, they're already starting to get into that space.
Interesting. That's
the
a gray
idea
area I didn't know about.
That women should be quitting their job. They should be staying at home while they're pregnant. They should not be stressed out because they might miscarry, and that would be manslaughter.
Cortisol might be bad for the babies in general. You don't know what lasting effects that has for the adult person that comes out.
Right.
The research probably isn't in yet.
Right. And so opening the legal door to now we can start prosecuting women who are pregnant and maybe make decisions we don't like, I think that's a really dangerous territory.
It is.
And that's the sole reason why I'm pro-choice.
That's fair. And as a libertarian, actually, like I said, I'd prefer to get back to your side of things. That, I guess, ideologically... What's that?
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Grab onto that bit of logic and then...
I guess ideologically, I am still pro-choice. Politically, I am pro-life now. If that distinction makes any sense.
Maybe.
Like, I understand the argument for abortion. I just want it to be reasonable, which I don't think in its current state it is.
To be sure, abortion is horrible. The stuff that they do, like when they inject poison into their skulls so they die hours later, they rip off body limbs. It's disturbing. And I've made pro-choice arguments to people and had them send me pictures of mutilated babies.
Right.
And I'm like, believe me, I get it. It's disturbing.
Right.
I totally get it.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know. I've seen enough of the pictures to give me that heebie-jeebies. I'd prefer not to see them. I'll put it this way. If someone's like, you're pro-choice and they made me watch because I think it was like a Georgia bill or something that made it so that there's like a PowerPoint presentation, all women who are getting it was some southern state, I think, that they had to watch like this video or something before getting the abortion. It was just like a bunch of grotesque images. Well, I think that might be on the right track. If it's literally just like traumatic the whole time, I think that's a little intellectually dishonest, that it should be more facts and figures than like, look at this, look at it.
Yeah. I don't know if there are any good solutions for that.
Right. But we're only going to find it by talking about it. Leaving it on the back burner and having people suffer is not the solution by any means. I think putting it front and center for a short amount of time, making it a priority, and then sitting on the coattails of our success is the way to the future. It's not a matter of saying, well, abortion was a 90s issue. It's like, no, it's not. It's still an issue now, and it could be more of an issue now than ever.
Mm-hmm.
So,
If you include infanticide with that, it's been an issue since the beginning of man.
And I've got a friend of mine, I just had him on the podcast the other day. We get more into the religious, spiritual side of things, and there's certain sects and cults that believe in the worship of child sacrifice. So that's a whole nother side of things that I'm definitely not getting into, but leave that as a cliffhanger for something we can talk about another time. Have you ever heard of Moloch or Baal?
There's a demon named Baal, right?
Well, they're actually based off of pagan gods. Baal was a Phoenician god, Baal Ammon. Baal was the Zeus, I guess, of the Phoenician gods, and he was married to he's whatever gods do with Tanit. She was the goddess of fertility, and so the belief was that infanticide was necessary as a sacrifice to Tanit in the name of Baal, for the fields to be fertile every new season. And I don't know, this is going back to ancient times, this is pre-Roman in North Africa, and they weren't as developed, and when I say developed, they didn't write down as much as, say, the Romans and the Greeks and the Egyptians, per se. There's a whole bunch of different factions there, and we only know more about the people who wrote stuff, but from what we find is that they did commit infanticide and they did worship it, which was one of the cultural rifts the Romans had with the Carthaginians, had the Punic Wars. This is something I'd like to have an expert eventually on, because I've done my own research, which is very limited. So if I can ever find someone who understands Carthaginian history and worship, that's something I really want to get into, because I know it's been tied to more recent sects. If you've heard of the Bohemian Grove. Okay. That's where it really gets into tinfoil hat land, because that's where Alex Jones he's a whistleblower, in theory, for Bohemian Grove, a place where... Bohemian Grove is a place in California where rich people have...
Oh, I have heard of that. Yeah, okay.
And the
symbology
of Bohemian Grove is of satanic worship. And when people say satanic, that's normally just a negative connotation of paganism, which goes back to Moloch, Baal, a lot of these ancient issues. Essentially, it becomes a lot of hearsay at this point, but the thing is, the fact that there is something there, it makes me wonder more. And it makes me wonder if, like, this is... You have people in a modern times worshiping something from an ancient era, and it's ethically it's ethically an issue. I think that should be front and center right along with abortion. We should wrap this up with a bow. Someone should explain that, yes, maybe in the San Francisco area back in, when did it start? Bohemian Grove? I don't know. But maybe this gentleman's club was a little more than just a gentleman's club, because presidents were there. I'm looking at a list. Ronald Reagan, Harvey Hancock, Richard Nixon, Glenn Seaborg, Edwin Pauley. These are all people in the summer of 1967 who went to Bohemian Grove. So whether or not it's malicious or malevolent, I don't know. But a lot of powerful people went there. And Alex Jones blew the lid off the symbology that was there. And to me, that's enough for me to go, I want to know more, and there's not a lot of information there. I'll just drop it there. Because I know I just opened up a rabbit hole, and we're trying to end. But yeah, it's been a pleasure having you on, Brian. We'll shoot for maybe next Wednesday again.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. All right, you have a good one.
All right.
Peace.
See ya.
Stop streaming.